It started with a smug voice. "Careful, sir. That's an expensive coat for someone just standing around. Now imagine this broad daylight, quiet street, closed bookstore, and a man in a charcoal suit just looking through the window. Not loitering, not causing trouble, just being there. But for Officers Collins and Burke, that was already too much. See, Elijah Knox didn't flinch. He didn't argue. Didn't reach for anything. He just stood there, hands by his sides, like he'd done this 1,000 times before. And maybe he had. You know what I mean." Burke leaned in, squinting like Elijah's face was hiding something criminal. "Mind if I ask what you're doing here?" "I'm waiting," Elijah said flatly. "For what?" A reason to speak. That threw them off. Not what they expected. Not defensive. Not afraid. Just calm. Too calm. And that's when it started, the look between the officers. The slow reach for the radio. The tension that clung to the sidewalk like summer heat. People began to stop. A middle-aged woman with a stroller paused, her eyes darting between the suited man and the two officers. A kid tugged at his mom's sleeve. "Mom, that's the guy from the TV. The one who gave the speech last week." The mom didn't answer, just stared a moment longer and turned away. But her phone stayed in her hand, and the screen was already recording. Collins was still talking, trying to sound casual, but you could hear the itch in his voice. "It's just standing here like this. It looks suspicious, that's all." Elijah blinked, then reached, slowly, into the inner pocket of his jacket. Burke stiffened, hand on baton, and then out came a leather case, official, impeccable. "Governor Elijah Knox, State of Marlowe." The silence hit harder than any shout. Let me back up a sec. Elijah wasn't the kind of guy who flaunted his position. No entourage, no fanfare. He walked alone because that's how he grew up. He knew these streets. Knew the weight of suspicion that followed him long before he ever took office. But today wasn't about him. Because 5 minutes later, something happened they didn't see coming. Langston Holt, head of the State Ethics Board, pulled up without sirens, no flashing lights. Just a black sedan. A state flag fluttering from the antenna. He got out, walked straight to the scene. Didn't even ask for introductions. He already knew. "Officers Collins, Burke," he said, tapping a sleek tablet. Voice cold. "You've been identified. The live feed began 8 minutes ago. You're currently being watched by over 30,000 viewers. And counting. Phones were up everywhere. From cafe tables, apartment windows. Even a city bus had stopped." Burke's face drained of color. Collins tried to explain. "We were just following procedure." Elijah turned, locked eyes with him. "What procedure is that, assuming a black man in a suit is out of place?" The question didn't need an answer. And then, out of nowhere, a teenage girl from across the street stepped forward. Naya, 16, straight A student, quiet type. She pointed at the two officers and said loud enough for every camera mic to pick it up. "My uncle was arrested in this neighborhood last year for jogging." That's when the twist landed. Nia's uncle. He died in custody 2 days later. The incident sealed. Never made the news. But here she was, cracking open a wound in front of the world. The air was electric. And Elijah. He didn't grandstand. He just said, "If I wasn't governor today, would I still be standing?" Burke looked down. Collins swallowed hard. Nobody answered. But the crowd did. Not with words, with presence. They didn't move, didn't speak, just stood with him. Quiet, but stronger than any riot. And then came the moment nobody expected. Elijah stepped forward, Not to yell, not to accuse. He simply said, "I'm not pressing charges. Not because you deserve mercy, but because this moment belongs to the people who've never been believed." Then he turned, walked away. No cameras followed. No campaign team. Just him. But the internet. Oh, it exploded. Clips titled "Governor Mistaken for Criminal" trended globally. Students held teach-ins. Churches rang bells at the same hour next day. And at a small school library in a quiet town. A class of sixth graders watched the video in silence. One boy, Liam, whispered, "I asked him last year if he was lost." He just smiled. At the end of the clip, Elijah stands beneath a tree, no spotlight, no speech. Just one last line. "We can't fix every scar, but maybe we can stop handing out new ones." 3 days later, Collins submitted his resignation. Burke was placed under investigation. But the real outcome? People started looking, questioning, remembering. The march that followed wasn't organized by officials. It was led by students, parents, elders, each carrying a photo of someone who never got to walk home. They passed by the precinct, now under audit. No chants, no signs, just photos held high, faces that refused to be erased. And as they turned the final corner, a question was written in chalk on the sidewalk. How many more before we learn to look twice? Yeah, that happened. And now I want to hear what you think. Was justice served? Or just delayed? Should power be the only thing protecting dignity? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because silence, that's a choice too.